Welcome to Daily Book Club. Ako si Day at dito ko sinasummarize ang mga non-fiction books in Taglish. Today's book was suggested by Jennifer Fuller, so shout out sa'yo. The Culture Map, Breaking Through the Invisible Boundaries of Global Business by Erin Meyer. Ang kultura natin ang nagdidictate kung ano yung mas bagay na communication style para sa iba at dito nagsisimula ang mga conflicts. If you take time to understand a person's cultural background and worldview, you will be able to communicate more effectively and avoid misunderstanding. And sa librong ito, may mga 8 scales para malaman ito. First scale, communicating. Being an observer is better than being a good speaker. Minsan, mahirap mag-communicate ang dalawang tao pag iba yung kultura nila kahit pareho yung lengguwahe nila. Ito ay dahil sa tinatawag na low context and high context cultures. Low context cultures ay precise at clear yung mga sinasabi nila para wala yung miscommunication. Makikita natin ito sa mga Western countries katulad ng US. The opposite naman ay ang high context cultures. Ang communication dito ay subtle or layered. Kailangan marunong ka mag-read between the lines to understand what they're really trying to say. Makikita natin ito sa mga countries katulad ng Korea. Yung tipong pinapag-usapan nyo yung jowa ng katropa mo. Tatanungin sa'yo, maganda ba siya? Ang sagot mo, mabait. But no country or culture is 100% low or high context. Pero bakit nga ba iba-iba yung context ng mga bansa? You can look at the history of the country. High context cultures katulad ng bansa ko, yung Korea, kasi we have a homogeneous population. Ang ibig sabihin nito, Koreano lahat halos yung mga tao na nandun. So gets nila yung isa't isa kahit hindi nila ini-explain. High context kasi you need a lot of context to understand. Low context cultures, katulad naman ng Amerika, halo-halo yung mga kultura doon at malakas yung impluensya ng mga immigrant. And dahil open to interpretations ang mga bagay-bagay, their way of communicating should be clear and concise to avoid misunderstandings. Low context, kasi you don't need a lot of context to understand. Kung ano yung sinabi, yun na yun. Kaya mapapansin mo sa mga Americans ay straight to the point sila, hindi sila paligoy-ligoy. So kung tinanong mo sila kung okay yung jowa ng katropa mo, ang pwede nilang sabihin ay hindi. Oo. Understanding this, how then can you work with other cultures? Kailangan mo i-balance ang listening and speaking. For high context cultures, you should be listening to the meaning instead of the words. One way to do this is by paying attention to the body language. Opposite naman nito ang low context. You have to listen to the word, and when you speak, be as specific as possible and explain as clearly as you can. Paano pag mixed cultures na iba-iba yung context? Or yung mga ka-team mo comes from different cultural backgrounds. The most effective way is to use the low context style to avoid misunderstandings. Second scale is feedback or evaluating. Be careful with your feedback because it can be offensive. When we give negative feedback, it can be direct or indirect. Halimbawa ng direct, gumagamit sila ng mga tinatawag na upgrade words. Katulad ng, I totally disagree with your opinion. And hindi unusual na mag-criticize sila sa harap ng mga tao. Indirect naman, usually ginagamit ang mga downgrade words. Mas gentle ang feedback. For example, maybe you should reconsider your opinion a little bit. Criticisms are usually given in private. Pag bumalik tayo sa first scale, which is communication, and yung second scale, which is feedback, 4 ang groups na makikita natin. So low context and direct feedback katulad ng Germany. High context and direct feedback katulad ng Russia. Low context and indirect feedback katulad ng US. And high context and indirect feedback katulad ng Korea. Bear these styles in mind and adapt your feedback based on this para we can reduce offending others. And pag nag-adapt ka, you will be able to achieve your desired outcome and makikita ng ibang tao na magalang and supportive ka. Third scale is persuading.
As in, unang kasal?
Pay attention to how others convey ideas. It will help you be more convincing. Meron tayong tinatawag na principles first reasoning at applications first reasoning. Principles first or deductive reasoning, dinedevelop muna ang theory or concept bago mag-present ng fact, statement, or opinion. It focuses on why. Bakit? Parang learning a language. Grammar principles muna ang aralin before you can make sense. Applications first or inductive reasoning, sinisimulan muna ito with a fact, opinion, or statement bago i-add yung mga concept and theories to back it up. Ang focus dito ay how o paano. Parang math, kailangan mo mag-practice ng practice para malaman mo ang principles of the formula. So for example, nagbibigay ka ng presentation. Pag principles first ang mga taong kausap mo, explain the concepts behind your reasoning bago mag-conclusion and examples. And para ma-persuade sila, provide background principles and welcome debates and questioning. And pag nagbibigay ka ng instructions, always explain why. Pag application first naman ang mga kausap mo, go straight to the point. Bigay ka ng concrete examples, tools, and next steps. And para ma-persuade mo sila, give practical examples. And when giving instructions, focus on the how. Fourth scale is leading. A successful leader learns to adapt their styles. Meron tayong dalawang klase, egalitarian and hierarchical. Pag-usapan natin ang egalitarian cultures. Maliit lang yung gap between employees and bosses. Tawag din dito ay ang flat organizational structure. Equal ang turing ng mga tao sa isa't isa. So chummy-chummy halos lahat and decisions are made together. So yung senior manager and yung encoder can talk to each other on a first name basis. Ang opposite nito ay ang hierarchical culture. Malaki ang gap between bosses and employees. Most if not all the time, yung boss yung nagli-lead at nagbe-make ng decisions. Pag sa communication naman, there's a rank that you have to follow. Halimbawa, gusto mo kausapin yung head ng isang department. Unless nakarank mo siya, kailangan mo dumaan sa direct superior mo. And sobrang rare na first name basis ang mga conversation. Understanding these differences means understanding how different cultures react to your requests. It will also give you an idea kung paano ka pwede mag-lead. If you're a leader working with egalitarian cultures, then employees must be included in making decisions. Facilitation yung kailangan rather than supervision. So, ini-involve mo lang yung sarili mo when things are not progressing. On the other hand naman, if you're leading a hierarchical culture, encourage employees to offer opinions. Kasi if you don't give them permission, hindi talaga sila magsasalita. And use those opinions to make decisions. Fifth scale is deciding. Understanding how decisions are made is important to putting ideas into action. Hindi automatic pag egalitarian, everyone gets to decide, and pag hierarchical, leader lang yung magde-decide. Iba rin pag decision making, kaya may sarili siyang scale. Consensual at top-down. Pag consensual, people take their time in discussing until a general agreement or consensus is made. Once a decision is made, implementation time is very short. Kasi lahat ng tao ay naging involved sa decision making. Pag top-down naman, decisions are made individually. And usually, ginagawa ito ng mga boss. And dahil sa mga revisions, it usually takes a longer time to implement. Meron din combination ng consensual and top-down. Parang yung ringi system ng mga Japanese. Yung proposal or document or tinatawag nilang ringisho ay binibigay sa middle management. Lahat ng tao sa middle management ay mag-e-edit nito hanggang may general agreement. Then, ibibigay nila sa next management level at uulitin ulit yung prosesong ito. Pag multicultural ang environment, it's always best to stick to one decision-making method. I-clarify lagi kung individual or group yung magme-make ng decision. Or you can even test both out and see what works best para in the future malalaman nyo kung ano yung pwede nyong gamitin. At the end of the day, make sure agree yung mga tao kung anong decision-making method yung gagamitin. Sixth scale is trusting. Trust is important to all but is built differently. Pwede natin hatiin ang trust sa cognitive trust and affective trust. Cognitive trust is based on actions. Parang tinatrust mo yung katrabaho mo kasi maganda yung output niya lagi. Affective trust naman is yung trust na galing sa emotions. Ito ay tulad ng trust na meron tayo sa kaibigan o kamag-anak natin. So very emotion-based nga ito. Sa scale naman, meron tayong high task-based at high relationship-based. High task-based, na katulad ng makikita natin sa Western countries, ay base sa mga achievements. Depende kung gaano ka-okay yung performance mo for business or profit, pwede magkaroon o mawala yung trust. So pag may tao natanggal dahil sa poor performance, walang personalan and normal lang sa mga tao ito. Nakasalalay ito sa cognitive trust. Ang relationship-based na nakikita natin sa Eastern countries or even sa Pilipinas ay base sa mga shared personal experiences. People take the time and energy to establish an emotional connection. Kung ginamit natin yung example kanina, minsan may mga napopromote na wala naman skills and hindi natatanggal o mahirap tanggalin yung mga taong with poor performance kasi may pinagsamahan sila. Kadalasan, it's not what you know, but who you know. Nakasalalay ito sa affective trust. Pero sa buong mundo, mas magagamit mo ang relationship-based trust. Kasi ang task-based trust ay nag-apply sa certain cultures lamang. So next time na hindi ka sigurado sa trusting culture, best way is to be interested in the other person and to find commonalities na hindi business lamang. And of course, it goes without saying, yung commonalities na yon should be based on your true self. Seventh scale is disagreeing. There is a proper way to disagree. Sa mga ibang kultura, disagreements are welcome. Some naman, avoid them. But regardless, kapag nagdi-disagree ka, lagi mo dapat tanungin ang sarili mo. Nagdi-disagree ka ba sa tao personally or sa idea niya? Sa scale na ito, meron tayong confrontational and avoids confrontation. Pag ang disagreeing pattern ay confrontational, people separate the person from the idea. So disagreements don't affect relationships. Isang halimbawa dito ay ang mga taga-Paris. Pag may nakita kang dalawang taong nag-aaway or nagdi-disagree, hindi ibig sabihin na magkagalit sila. They can actually be really good friends. Pag ang disagreeing pattern naman ay avoids confrontation, ang kahit anong confrontation ay hindi okay. And if you go against someone's ideas and beliefs, it is seen as a personal attack on the person. Makikita natin to sa mga kultura katulad ng Korea, Japan, and even the Philippines. Kung gusto mo mag-maintain ng relationships with different cultures, understand how disagreements are handled within the team. For confrontational cultures, be cautious and keep in mind na very objective at hindi personal ang mga disagreements. Pag nag-avoid ng confrontation, think of how you can take the disagreement generally. Ano ibig sabihin nito? For example, pag may meeting ang team with the boss about an idea, mas okay na mag-pre-meeting kayo na wala yung boss, so that the team can prepare the ideas as a group. And if nag-criticize ang boss, directed ito sa group instead of the individual. Eighth and final scale is scheduling. Schedule according to a culture's perception of time. The scale can be looked as linear or flexible. Pag linear, ang mga tasks ay ginagawa one after the other or step by step. Mas importante ang mga deadlines at schedules kaysa sa pagiging adaptable and flexible. Isipin nila na bastos ka pag may ginagawa kang iba na hindi konektado sa task at hand. Pag flexible naman, kung ano-ano yung mga nagiging issue at that certain moment, yun yung magiging task. And many things can be addressed at the same time. Mas importante dito ang adaptability and flexibility. Kahit may nakaschedule na meeting para sa isang bagay, pwede ito magbago o iba-iba yung mapapag-usapan dito. Here's an example of how different these cultures are. Sabihin natin, nag-a-apply ka sa isang trabaho sa Switzerland, which is linear yung kultura nila, and Saudi Arabia, which is very flexible naman ang kultura nila. Nagustuhan nila yung credentials mo. Very good. Ang huling tanong nila ay, why would one of us hire you? And yung sagot mo sa kanila ay, I am very flexible and I know how to multitask very well. Sino sa tingin mo ang kukuha sa'yo? Yung Saudi Arabia, dahil flexible yung culture nila. Mas gusto nila yung adaptability. Yung Switzerland naman, dahil linear sila, makikita nila na hindi ka organized enough and hindi ka nila i-hire. Of course, generalization lang ito. So, paano ka ba dapat mag-adapt? Look at how people deal with tasks. Do they follow schedules or deadlines? Kung ganon, be linear and do the same. Plan meetings in detail and stick to your plans. Pag flexible naman, plan but don't set limits. Learn to adapt quickly to tasks and needs. Kung ikaw naman ang nabibuild ng culture, make sure that you'll come up with a scheduling rule that will benefit all. For example, try this exercise in your workplace. Sabihin natin sobrang importante na hindi pwede maging late. So kung sino man yung maging late, magbabayad siya. And yung bayad na yun ay gagamitin sa mga company outings or kung ano man yung kailangan nyo as a group. Interesting talaga ang culture map. Applicable rin ito sa mga sarili-sarili nating organizations. Tingnan nyo yung mga organizations and teams nyo. Try nyo i-determine using these 8 scales kung saan kayo. Pag ginawa nyo to, mas magigets nyo kung paano tumatakbo ang organization nyo. At malalaman nyo din kung paano kayo pwedeng dumiskarte. At yan ang summary ng The Culture Map, Breaking Through the Invisible Boundaries of Global Business by Erin Meyer. If nakaabot kayo dito, para malaman ko, comment lang kayo ng heart na emoji. May takeaway ba kayo? Or may part ba kayo na sobrang nakaka-relate kayo? Pag-usapan natin, share nyo lang sa comment section below. Kung nakatulong ang video na to, please do like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to click the bell icon para malaman nyo kung may bagong episode ako. And kung naging interested kayo sa librong ito, please try to read it kasi ibang experience din siya. See you sa susunod na episode ng Daily Book Club.